Mr. Sandro Tonali might eat spaghetti. He might drink Moretti. That could be true. But after Saturday's absolute Italian stallion performance, as we absolutely buried Aston Villa 5 goals into the ground, what exactly have we learned from that, from what Tonali is going to offer to this Newcastle team, and how is he going to make us better this season? Let's look at Mr. Tonali a little bit closer. It's all coming up on this video, Newcastle fans, so do me a favour and stick around. Welcome back to Black and White Banter, you beautiful Newcastle fans. I hope your week is going as well as mine as I make this video. It is the middle of the week, it's Wednesday, and you just feel like you cannot wait to watch Eddie Howe's Mags again. We back in that loop. The season started and our lives suddenly revolve around football all over again. I mean, you could argue mine maybe did in pre-season, but now it is about, right, who have we got next? Who have we got next? And it's Man City, and we don't fear them. It's almost a free hit, but it's a place we are going full of optimism, full of confidence, and isn't it absolutely incredible? And of course, Newcastle fans, I will be going down to Manchester City. I will be in the away end. I will be going in a hired out social club, not far from Manchester beforehand. That's why it's one of my favourite away days. So there will be vlogs coming up. So that leads me on to my next point. If you don't want to miss those upcoming vlogs, whack that subscribe now, or wait till you see whether you like my opinion at the end of this video. And if you haven't already, I don't even care whether you weren't supposed to be watching this video, drop us a little likey loo. That means that my face and my voice maybe gets watched by a couple more people. So when I'm losing sleep on an evening editing my videos, it maybe makes it a little bit more worth it. Do that now, and if you do, you're an absolute legend. It's confirmed. So, now that nitty-gritty stuff's out the way, let's talk a little bit in depth, as I promised on my last video, about Mr. Sandro Tonali. I don't need to say too much about how much he wowed us on Saturday. Every player on the pitch pretty much wowed us on Saturday. Nobody expected us to come out the traps the way we did. No one expected the result to finish the way that it did. And no one expected us to literally take a shit on the Premier League table. Not the league table, the actual table of every other manager, coach and member of the Premier League sitting round as if to say, yeah, write us off at your peril. Newcastle United are back and we are continuing where we left off last year with a little help of a couple more players. And one of them players was the Italian stallion. And it was a fascinating insight into what he can offer, because everything I'm going to talk about in the next 5 or 10 minutes about the player, just remember, this man does not know the Premier League yet. This man has not fully adapted to England yet. This man has not fully adapted to his teammates around him yet. And he can only get better. And that is what is so exciting. I almost want to reach for the Yankee candles, put the mood lighting on, and sit back and enjoy that thought a little bit more than I should. So, what did we learn about Sandro Tonali? Well, first and foremost, let's talk about his passing. Sandro Tonali's passing on Saturday was nothing short of almost perfection. And when I say the word almost, I mean he only misplaced 4 passes in the whole game. These passes were varied from all over the pitch, and if you are going to have a central midfielder of the quality of him and the price tag of him, you need that player to be pretty nifty with the ball, and what he does and how he moves the football through the phases from defence into attack. Sandro Tonali did that on Saturday, only 4 out of all them, and don't forget, he covered so many blades of grass. It was absolutely ridiculous. What was a very, very interesting insight as well is Sandro Tonali is not scared to use that left foot. He had 100% pass completion with his left foot, and one of them was an absolute 60-yard peach. So that's why this player is versatile. That's why this player can move to the left, he can move to the right, he can cover both channels, he can play passes and crosses into the box with both feet. The versatility, like I talked about in all my videos, was there to see on Saturday and there to see in the stats. And that's one of the reasons Eddie Howe wanted him. He is not a number 6, and I promise anyone who's been watching all of my videos, that is the last time I'm going to say that. Because if I hear anyone in the pub pre-match making that statement, I will give their head a bit of a wobble and probably assume that they are not really that tuned into what they're watching. He's not a number 6. He is going to cover every blade of grass like he did on Saturday, getting forward for his goal, which was a well-timed run, dropping deep to Botman and Shea and saying, give me that football, I want to play it to someone, filling it on the left, filling on the right. And that brings me to my next point now. The relationship between Tonali and Bruno is an exciting one. It's a one that's only going to blossom like a beautiful flower outside St James's Park. It is going to blossom. It's going to take time, and we need to be patient with it. But what was really interesting about Saturday is the passing networks. Yeah, I'm bringing my fancy football terminology in. The passing networks that were set up between all Newcastle players showed that Bruno and Tonali are predominantly going to operate on the right-hand side of that 3. And they swapped positions on that right-hand side numerous occasions. Now, if you go back to the last time we played Aston Villa last season, that did not happen as much between Bruno and Sean Longstaff. So there has been an adaptable change there from Eddie Howe. But what we are going to see is not only those two players communicating with each other when to get forward, because I'd be very surprised if we ever have Bruno and Tonali both piling into the box, unless it's an all-out attack situation where the other team aren't leaving many men forward, which we might see at St James's Park quite a lot, as all the teams desperately try to just take a point from Eddie Howe's absolutely fantastic mags. But it's interesting that their phases of play and their swapping and most of their passing is all from the right-hand side of that 3. So if you look to the left-hand side, we all know how much ground Joey covers. And I think Eddie Howe has got it set up that way because Joe Linton covers so much ground, but also the winger on the left-hand side, whether that be Gordon or Barnes, also puts the work in. And I'm not saying Almeida on the right-hand side doesn't. I just think even from balls into the box, Bruno and Tonali are going to be more suited to passing with their stronger foot, and that's going to be on the right. And Joe Linton, with the work he puts in, is more suited to that left-hand side. And don't forget, Joe Linton is going to be supporting that left-sided midfielder. So that was another interesting thing to see. And like I say, it's time to get excited about what him and Bruno can do together. Because I personally don't think, and this might be controversial, that we have seen a really, really, really good Bruno since pre-cup final. And that might be controversial. If anyone wants to argue with me in the comments, that's fine. I think pre-ankle injury before the cup final, Bruno was really putting in some man-of-the-match performances. I haven't seen Bruno be the standout player in a Newcastle game for a very long time. I'm not saying he's doing anything wrong. We know how creative he is with the football. We know how comfortable he is with it, and we know how much he contributes, like he did on Saturday, to those wonderful performances. But I just don't think he's doing anything stand out, and he hasn't for a while. And I think Tonali coming in and then being able to switch up with a little bit more freedom when the other one drops in that communication that they'll both have as things get better is only going to make each player better. So that's exciting. The next area for me that we all know, well, a lot of us will know, is Tonali's press. Eddie Howe wanted this man in for the press, and interestingly, Tonali finished second in our pressure stats on Saturday, only behind Joe Linton, only behind the brick shit house in Joe Linton. So Tonali's engine is clear for all to see, and that's very, very, very important how Eddie Howe plays. And for me, as I'm rattling through these different stats and insights into what we saw from him on Saturday, it just shows why I think, as much as it pains me to say it, that he will out Sean Longstaff for the majority of the season. Now, it's a long season, and that squad is important, and Longstaff will play his part, and Longstaff, without a doubt, deserves to play his part. He showed how important he was when he wasn't in the team last season, and we did start to lose matches and look a little bit flat and short. But I just think Tonali has a couple more boxes ticked in his locker in terms of that quality. And of course, he's a £55 million player who's just played in a Champions League semi-final. That's to be expected to a degree. But it just pains me a little bit that Longstaff is maybe going to be the guy who gets shafted in this scenario. He's going to have to really graft his bollocks off to be a Premier League starter, Longstaff, I think. But we're going to get injuries. We've got cup games, Champions League games, you name it. If we go on a FA Cup or Carabao Cup run on top of Champions League, Jesus Christ, is that a lot of football. That is a crazy lot of football. One other thing that I find really, really interesting with Tonali is where most of his passes and assists. Sorry, passes that lead to goals and assists come from. And we have to look back. I think to look at Saturday would be a little bit of a false statement. So we'd have to look back to AC Milan's season last year, and most of those came from the right. Now, isn't that fascinating? Because where did Tonali put a cross in that was the pass before the assist for Botman to pass it along to Isak for our first goal, for our second goal? Sorry, of course it was from the right hand side. So as the image shows, a lot of his play that leads to shots on target, which is just to the right, or chances, is from that right-hand side, and that's exactly what we saw. And that's no surprise, because I've just talked about how him and Bruno's passing networks were all the way down the right. But he gets a lot of joy, and we are going to see this from crossing balls. So it's just another element to his game. Isak and Wilson will be on the end of things that come in from Tonali, and I don't think Eddie Howe's a lumping into the box manager. I don't think he ever will be, apart from our set pieces that we receive. The same as he's not a take a shot from distance manager, which frustrates me, I'll be honest. I'll never criticise Eddie Howe, the absolute god that he is, and he knows way more than me, but I do think we are a team that don't shoot enough in and around the box. It's always pass, 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 final pass, final pass. Sometimes you have to shoot to score, and we have the players to shoot, but he just doesn't seem to like it. So that's another fascinating element. So just to recap, we are getting a guy whose passing is pretty pristine. We are getting a guy who can contribute lots of assists and the assist before the assist from that right-hand side, because he is going to get forward. We are going to see him predominantly playing down the right-hand side as he switches and builds a relationship with Mr. Bruno Guimaraes, and leave the left-hand side more to Joe Linton. We are seeing an adaptability. If you look at where his passes have come from, he's going to cover every blade of grass, which only suits how Eddie Howe wants us to play. And finally, you are going to see a guy with an engine on him, the same as Livramento, who we've signed, where he is going to buy into this press that he already played at AC Milan, and he's going to keep top on the stats for pressure situations, and that's what we need. If we are going to keep replicating what we did against Aston Villa, where we put them in a chokehold and absolutely smother them, that high press is important. So all I'm going to finish on Newcastle fans is we have a very, very, very exciting footballer on our hands here who is only going to get better. All of these stats I'm talking about are after one fucking match. An Italian coming into England and settling in has got me making a video where I am bigging him up this much and showing you all of this positivity from one game, his first game in competitive football in England. Wow. Wow, maybe I should start eating more spaghetti if I can start playing a little bit more like him. And I have to give an honourable mention, as of already a Hall of Famer. This guy's a legend, because this guy went to Wetherspoons on Monday. I don't know who stitched him up in the Newcastle training ground, but Tonali booked out a table in Wetherspoons. What a man. Any Newcastle footballer who decides to go to the beautiful establishment that is JD Wetherspoons, maybe orders a beer and a burger, maybe just orders 2 bottles for £5. He is a legend in my eyes, no matter what he does on the pitch. The best thing about this one is, though, he does have the engine to get to them toilets, because we all know how much of a trek it is to go for a shit in Wetherspoons. But Tonali's the right man for the job, so it shouldn't come as too much of a problem for him. What a man. All of them stats, but most importantly, the man drinks and eats in Wetherspoons. He's already a Geordie, basically. All he needs to do now is start having a breakfast roll and the coffee from Greg's in the morning, and he's pretty much ticked all boxes. Newcastle fans, if you've liked this video and you like the look of Tonali, and maybe I've missed something that you observed about him on Saturday, drop down and let me know in the comments. Whack that subscribe if you like this video. My next video planned is going to be a how to beat Manchester City video. The 4 trophy winning, as I make this, because they've just won the Super Cup, Manchester City. How do we beat them, one of the best teams in world football? I'm going to look at that a little bit closer in comparison to what Eddie Howe has at his disposal. So if you're curious, whack that subscribe, that'll be coming. And then on to Manchester City we go. The match vlogs are going to keep coming. The beers are going to keep getting consumed. All aboard the away party bus for the first time this season. I'll see you on those videos, Newcastle fans. Enjoy your week. Away the lads!